The Silent Tunnel. In 1983, a group of engineering students from a small university in Pennsylvania decided to explore the abandoned Susquehanna Tunnel, a defunct railway project that was shut down after a series of mysterious deaths during its construction in the early 1900s. The tunnel, known locally as the Tunnel of Whispers, had a reputation for being cursed. Locals claimed the workers' deaths were not accidents but the result of something unnatural lurking within the tunnel. Most dismissed the stories as urban legends, but the students were intrigued by the lore and eager to debunk it. Armed with flashlights and recording equipment, the group entered the pitch-black tunnel. As they ventured deeper, the air grew colder, and the oppressive silence was broken only by their nervous chatter. About half a mile in, they discovered rusted mining tools and a decrepit rail cart. Graffiti covered the walls, but among the spray-painted tags were crude, etched symbols that resembled ancient runes. While inspecting the cart, one of the students, Greg, spotted what he thought was a faint light at the far end of the tunnel. "Maybe it's another exit," he suggested. The group pressed on, but the light didn't grow closer. Instead, it flickered and disappeared, plunging them back into darkness. Then they heard it, a deep, guttural noise, like stone scraping against stone, echoed through the tunnel. They froze, their flashlights trembling in their hands. "Did you hear that?" Maria whispered, her voice barely audible. Before anyone could respond, the sound grew louder, accompanied by the distinct sensation of the ground vibrating beneath their feet. Panic set in, and the group turned to head back, only to find the tunnel entrance obscured by what appeared to be a dense, impenetrable fog. "Run!" Greg shouted. They sprinted toward the entrance, but no matter how far they ran, the fog remained. The guttural noise transformed into a cacophony of shrieks and whispers, all around them yet coming from nowhere. Suddenly, Maria's flashlight beam caught a figure ahead. It was a man, wearing old-fashioned miner's clothing, standing perfectly still. His face was pale and gaunt, his eyes sunk in hollows. Before they could react, he raised a bony hand and pointed behind them. The group turned just in time to see a massive shadow enveloping the tunnel walls, its form shifting and pulsating as if alive. Greg's screams were the last sound Maria remembered before everything went black. Maria woke up outside the tunnel, alone and covered in dirt. The others were never found. Despite extensive searches, the authorities declared them missing. To this day, Maria refuses to speak about what happened, but the tunnel remains sealed, its entrance covered in warning signs. The Forgotten Asylum. In rural Michigan, hidden deep within an overgrown forest, lies the remains of Glenwood Asylum. Built in the 1920s to house mentally ill patients, the facility was shut down in 1954 following allegations of abuse and negligence. Locals say that after its closure, strange lights were often seen flickering in the empty windows, and eerie cries echoed through the woods at night. In 2007, a documentary filmmaker named Rachel decided to investigate the asylum for her next project. She and her crew, consisting of her cameraman Eric and sound technician Lisa, ventured into the crumbling structure armed with cameras and recording devices. The asylum's interior was a labyrinth of decaying hallways, broken furniture, and graffiti-covered walls. Among the vandalism were chilling messages. "They never left," and "Don't trust the mirrors." Rachel dismissed them as pranks but felt an unease she couldn't shake. While filming in the main hall, Eric's camera picked up a faint voice that wasn't audible to their ears. "Help me," it whispered. Reviewing the footage, the crew grew excited, believing they'd captured evidence of the paranormal. But as they delved deeper into the asylum, the atmosphere grew heavier. Doors slammed shut on their own, and their equipment malfunctioned. Lisa claimed she saw a figure in a patient's gown darting down a corridor, but when they followed, they found only an empty hallway. The turning point came when they entered the basement, where the asylum's electroshock therapy room was located. The walls were lined with rusted equipment and leather restraints. In the corner, they discovered a small, child-sized bed surrounded by scattered toys. One toy, a jack-in-the-box, began playing on its own. Terrified, the crew decided to leave, but the way out seemed to change with every turn. Hallways they just walked through now ended in solid walls. The asylum's layout seemed to shift, trapping them. Eric, holding the only working flashlight, suddenly collapsed, clutching his throat. Rachel and Lisa watched in horror as handprints appeared on his neck, as if an invisible force was choking him. In a desperate attempt to save him, Rachel grabbed a rusted pipe and swung it through the air, meeting no resistance. Eric's body went limp. Before they could process what had happened, the jack-in-the-box began playing again, its haunting tune echoing through the basement. A child's laughter followed, growing louder and more distorted. Rachel and Lisa eventually found their way out, but Eric's body was never recovered. Rachel abandoned filmmaking, and Lisa moved across the country, refusing to speak of the incident. The asylum remains untouched, a forbidden relic of a dark past. The Devil's Bargain, the true story of the Bell Witch. In the early 19th century, there was a dark and terrifying legend that gripped the small farming community of Red River in Tennessee. The Bell family, led by John Bell, had just settled into their modest farm, unaware that they were about to be tormented by an entity that would terrorize them for years. What started as a strange occurrence quickly escalated into a nightmare that would haunt the family for generations. It began with the sound of mysterious knocks on the walls of the Bell house. At first, John thought it was the work of animals, maybe a raccoon or a wildcat. But when he investigated, nothing was there. Soon, the knocks became louder and more frequent, followed by the sound of scratching and dragging. The family, particularly John's daughter, Betsy, began to experience strange sensations of being touched, brushed by unseen hands, hair pulled, and even violent shaking of their beds at night. But the Bell family wasn't just haunted by odd noises. An unearthly voice began to speak to them, low, guttural, and terrifying. It first spoke in whispers, then grew louder and clearer with each passing day. It called itself Kate, a name that seemed to have been chosen out of spite, as though the spirit intended to mock them. Over time, Kate's voice took on a mocking tone, threatening them, cursing their very existence. The Bell family sought help from their community, but no one could explain the strange occurrences. Eventually, they invited a spiritual medium, a woman known for her clairvoyance, to visit the farm. The medium communicated with the entity, learning that it was not a benign spirit, but a powerful force that had been summoned by a dark ritual years before. Kate, as she called herself, revealed to the medium that she was the spirit of a witch who had been wronged in life. She had been killed by a member of the Bell family, and her restless spirit was bent on revenge. As the haunting intensified, Betsy Bell, the youngest daughter, became its primary target. She was tormented in unspeakable ways. Her hair was pulled, her face slapped, and her body was violently shaken. Betsy became increasingly sick, both mentally and physically, unable to find peace. John Bell, too, became the object of the entity's fury. His health deteriorated rapidly, and soon after, he was found dead. His final moments were said to have been filled with terrifying sounds and the voice of Kate mocking him as he took his last breath. The haunting lasted for years before mysteriously stopping. Some say that the entity's power was broken, while others believe it simply grew bored of the family. However, the Bell Witch's legend did not die with the family. Over the years, many who visited the farm claimed to have experienced strange phenomena. Noises, lights, and even glimpses of the witch's spirit. To this day, the bell which remains one of the most infamous hauntings in American history. Some believe that Kate still lurks in the shadows of the Bell family farm, waiting for another opportunity to claim her next victim. The curse of the bell, which is a reminder that some spirits are bound by a thirst for revenge that transcends the afterlife. The price of the Bell family's sins may have been paid, but the darkness they unleashed lives on, waiting for another soul to come too close.